Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. You're watching DeProgram with me, Ted Rall, editorial cartoonist, CIA whistleblower, John Kiriakou over there. I'm pointing the wrong way because on my
No, you're right. Yeah, that was right.
He's backwards. Nice to see you, John.
Ted, kudos on that music.
Oh, well, I wish I could take credit for it.
I enjoyed it.
I picked it from, hopefully we don't get into any copyright problems, but that's YouTube's officially sanctioned copyright. Feel free to use it music. So it should be A-okay. You know, as someone who
good stuff.
is always into intellectual property. I make my living on it.
Right.
I'm always very respectful of other people's copyright. John, we have a lot to talk about, so we should probably dive right in. France, as we talked about and we anticipated, has decided to formally recognize Palestine as an independent state, exchange ambassadors, the whole thing. We're going to get into that and all the political ramifications. We've got to talk about the Democrats who are raising the alarm about the masked ICE agents in their unmarked vehicles. They're going to try to see if they can conduct some oversight from the minority side of the aisle. I'm not sure if they're going to get anywhere with that.
Good luck.
Ghislaine Maxwell's lawyer says she didn't take the fifth on anything, that she answered every question fulsomely and wholly and honestly. She seems to be jonesing for a pardon, but like the cartoon of the fat lady raiding the refrigerator, she might be looking for love in all the wrong places here. Trump he wants to basically sign an executive order making it illegal to be homeless.
Yeah. How do you like that?
It's well, I wish you could make all sorts of things illegal. I'm already working on a cartoon about this. He can do an executive order for everything. Anyway, so we will talk about the ramifications of that. So let's get into it. French President Emmanuel Macron had a conference scheduled for next week that was supposed to be concerning the Israel-Palestine crisis. And it basically fell apart. And it looks like he decided to turn a lemon into lemonade and basically pull the trigger on something that he's been toying with for a long time, which is to join the ranks of the many countries like Spain, Ireland, Russia, China, Saudi Arabia, many others, and most of the world that have already formally recognized the Republic of Palestine. I've been arguing, John, with my friends that this is a big deal.
Huge.
We're going to look back and say this was a turning point for the people of Palestine that it's hard to really overstate. And I think that comes down to the fact that France used to be, until very recently, was the most important diplomatic country. All diplomats had to be fluent in French. No matter what country they were from.
That's right.
Franca, until maybe the 1920s or 30s, you weren't really considered an educated American if you weren't fluent in French.
That's right.
And so it's like, now my friend Scott Stantis says, well, was is the key word. And it's a point, it's true that maybe, but I don't think France can be ignored. I think much of the world, when it comes to diplomacy, is going to be looking to France.
I think so too. And among European countries, and especially European Union countries, France is a major leader, along with the Germans. The Germans have thrown their lot in with the Israelis. The French are showing real leadership here. I think you're right, Ted, that we're going to look back on this decision as a turning point. It's one thing for the Irish to recognize Palestine, which they did back in February, I think it was. All that did was piss off the Israelis, but it threw a bone to the Palestinians that was really worth its weight in gold. We expected that to happen because the Irish have been oppressed, throughout their history. France, though, France is one of the historic colonial powers in the Middle East. That's why they speak French in Syria and Lebanon, for example.
Right.
But for the French to go out on a limb like this and say, enough is enough, we're recognizing the state of Palestine, which you're correct in pointing out, includes an exchange of ambassadors and presumably French diplomatic support at the United Nations. Remember, France has a Security Council veto.
Right. I wish they could veto the American vetoes.
I wish they could too. This is huge. It really is. The question now is who's next?
Right. That is the question, right? Luxembourg and Italy, Portugal, all seem to be lining up.
Yes.
There will be others.
There will.
And they're a permanent. And, they're a G7 country. They're the only, I guess, Russia and China are in the G7. No, they were.
No, they were.
They were. But yes, the only G7 country. So it's the only permanent member of the Security Council. Yeah, France is a colossus here.
Yeah.
And a major power in the Middle East. I don't think you can overstate this. And, it's probably the most important move of Macron's presidency.
Agreed. That and his recent lawsuit against Candace Owens, although we can talk about that later.
Now, I do want to take note of not surprisingly, Benjamin Netanyahu was displeased by this move, but the way that he expressed his displeasure on X was particularly interesting. He deplored the fact that France was recognizing a Palestinian state right next to Tel Aviv. Well, the Palestinian state was always going to be right next to Tel Aviv. So unless he knows something about the laws of physics, or he's engaged in ethnic cleansing.
Ethnic cleansing, because they want this state.
What he's talking about.
Yeah, they want this state to be either on an Indonesian island or in a piece of Albania that would be lopped off.
Right.
That's exactly what he's alluding to.
Yeah, he doesn't want it there.
Yeah.
And he didn't say, if he was a temperate person and leading a normal government instead of a gangster regime over there in Israel, he would have said something that goes more like, of course, we would be the first to recognize a lawful, duly elected Democratic Republic of Palestine, and we would be proud to work hand in hand to help rebuild as neighbors and friends. We just can't possibly work with Hamas, who've attacked us without provocation. That's what you would hope he would have said. But there's no pretense here, right? He didn't say recognize a terrorist state, recognize a Hamas state. To recognize a Palestinian state right next to Tel Aviv.
Oh my God. I remember when I was a kid watching an episode of 60 Minutes in which it was like Azer Weissman, who was the defense minister at the time, was showing the 60 Minutes crew from a helicopter, historical Israel, right, without the West Bank. And at the narrowest point, it's 9 miles across from the line of the West Bank to the Mediterranean Sea, 9 miles. And he says, we can't live with that. They can cut off the 9 miles and just choke us, and it would be the end of Israel. So we have to have the West Bank. And even as a teenager, I was like, are you guys out of your minds?
They want Lebensraum.
Yes. Yes.
It's it's amazing how much they sound like the Germans. It really is.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I've had pro-Zionist friends criticize me for that and making that comparison. I'm like, well, if the jackboot fits, wear it.
Hans Eli makes a good comment here, Ted. We should probably address it, especially the last sentence there. The world isn't always going to prop up Israel. And I think that's what we're seeing the beginning of right now. These are the first cracks, right? The first cracks in global or at least Western support for Israel. You're right. The United States will try. The United States is going to be the last country to support an independent Palestine. The last one. But this is the beginning of it. And like Ted said at the very beginning of the show, I don't think we can overestimate the importance here.
Yeah, I think Hans Eli is right. I think you're right. And, in terms of I agree with Hans's question here, the first part of it as well. Isn't the Israelis' unwillingness to go along with the two-state solution and trying to go for the whole schmear?
Yeah. They're unwilling to have any kind of state solution.
Yeah, no, they don't want. They like the current state of affairs.
They do,
and it will lead to a one-state Palestinian solution. Israel was, I mean, it's funny. Israel, I would say, I've often thought was like an outdated, obsolete solution to a non-existent problem now. But maybe it made sense in 1948. I actually don't think it made sense in 1948. I mean, in 1948, the Brits were withdrawing from the Raj, from India, the most important colony they had.
That's right.
And within 20 years, pretty much every major European power was out of Africa or on their way out of Africa. And so, I mean, basically, the colonial experiment that this really was, I mean, this really goes back to 1920 and it goes back before, but it goes really as a colonial experiment to the Balfour Declaration of 1920, which was a British colonial adventure at the peak of colonialism. But by the time it got done, colonialism was out of fashion and was finished and done. And here we are. It's the last, I mean, you could argue that Puerto Rico is a colony or Guam, but I mean, this is the last settler colonialist experiment. Puerto Rico is not a settler colonial experiment. It's the locals who live there. We just govern them. I'm not saying it's right or wrong.
Yeah, right. And actually, even the Puerto Ricans are split. A third, a third, a third. A third want to be a state, a third want to be an independent country, and a third want to leave things just the way they are. Yeah.
And I'm glad Lulu brought this up because I was about to mention it also, which is that Israel is the last country to support apartheid-era South Africa.
Yes.
Man, they know how to pick them. It's like apartheid-era South Africa, and we're going to be their last friends. I mean, yeah, we are going to be their last friends. It's going to be sooner rather than later. It's going to be really hard for each European country to domestically, the domestic unpopularity of the state of Israel is just going to blow away. John, I got to ask you about these horrific photos that have surfaced in the last 48 hours of tiny children who have become tinier due to famine, who have been reduced to skeletons. It reminded me of the famous footage from Ethiopia during the famine half a century ago when I was in Somalia, places like that. So in those situations, I mean, you could argue that all famines are man-made, Irish potato famine, etc. But this is the most man-made famine outside of the Warsaw Ghetto that we've seen in a long time. I mean, 5 miles away from where these people are, where surgeons are collapsing because they themselves are starving to death, and BBC journalists are starving to death and dying. Now, people are eating couscous and hummus and drinking sweet red wine.
That's right.
There's plenty of food. There's no shortage of food.
I said that earlier today in an interview. There's plenty of food. We see these pictures of children starving to death. We're seeing reports of surgeons in the middle of performing surgery passing out and fainting from a lack of food. There's plenty of food. The Israelis just won't allow the food in. And when they do allow the food in and people mob the distribution centers, the Israelis then just open fire on the crowds, which they've done at least 3 times in the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh, more. It's almost every day, John.
Sickening.
And it's like, and so, I mean, so,
let me interrupt you for a second. Here's a good point. I was talking about this with a friend of mine. Brulard definitif. Sorry, I don't speak French. What about the Egyptians? The Egyptians are under real pressure today to open the border. They have said that they're not opening the border under any circumstances.
If they open the border, they will be complicit with the ethnic cleansing.
Exactly.
They're between a rock and a hard place.
They are. Do you just let people starve, or do you jump in on the side of the Israelis in cleansing Gaza?
Fucking Israelis. That's what they did this on purpose.
Yeah, they did.
And the Egyptians aren't stupid. That's why they built that berm over a year ago.
That's right.
Something like they're worried that the Israelis will throw open the border, and then they won't be able to resist. Their troops are not going to want to and will not shoot 2 million people.
For the last couple of years, I've donated money to a Palestinian medical relief organization. Not a lot of money. If I have an extra $50, I send it in, and I got an automated email from them telling people to stop donating because there are no hospitals in Gaza now.
Right. There's nothing to donate to.
There's nothing to donate to.
Yeah, this reminds me a lot of so like from 1996 to 2001, when the Taliban were running Afghanistan the first time, they there were Clinton administration trade sanctions against the Taliban in Afghanistan, but they always said no, it's not medical supplies or food. We don't prohibit that at all. And when I was there the first time in 2000, and I visited a hospital, and the doctors, and I found this to be true at other hospitals too, they were like, we haven't seen a Band-Aid since the early 90s. And it's like nothing at all. It's like, it's field medicine. It's basically like you're outside.
A MASH unit.
But you're inside. Yeah, that's it. You have a roof that may or may not leak. That's what you've got. It's a nice tent, basically.
Oh my God.
But John, about these pictures, I think you and I are we're experienced. We've seen a lot of shit. Many of us here who are watching and reading have too. But these pictures landed hard with me in a surprising way. And pictures, 1,000 words, all that. It could really. I mean, I get the impression this is going to
turn things.
It makes a difference. I think Macron saw those photos and was like, "This is it, done." He was already on the way, and I think that's it. I mean, it's just like no one cares anymore. But October 7th, but the Holocaust. No one cares anymore. It's like you guys are out of excuses. You have to stop.
Mm-hmm. Ted, I have a friend. We've been friends for 20 years, and he posted on Facebook. He's not just Zionist; he's a dual U.S. Israeli national, and he posted on Facebook yesterday. This happened in the last 24 hours. Rhodes, Greece, Israelis blocked from coming off a cruise ship. Sidos, Greece, Israelis targeted by angry Greeks. Cyprus, Israelis had tomatoes thrown at them. And it was like 10 things.
The Gazans would love to have some tomatoes thrown at them.
I took a picture of a child starving to death in her mother's arms. Nothing but skin and bone. And he blocked me. That's what we're up against here. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
they don't care if children are starving to death. They don't care.
No. And you know what's funny? Getting back, I'm still haunted by that Bret Stephens column from a couple of days ago.
Yeah, day before yesterday.
And in there he talked about like, yes, there some people who say it's a genocide point to the genocidal comments that were made by his high-ranking Israeli officials in the days after October 7th. But they were just being intemperate. They were being spicy. They were just angry about October 7th. Okay, so if that were true, and that was not the official policy of the Israeli government, which we know it is because all the journalists have reported that it is. But let's just say that, we're going to pretend here that Bret Stephens is telling the truth.
Yeah.
Those people would have been fired.
Yes.
If President Kiriakou of Israel doesn't let those people stay on, like, what are you doing? That's not who we are. Please leave your ID at the door. That's just not. That's left them in.
Remember, we're talking about Smotrich and Ben Gvir. They were successfully prosecuted for felony hate crimes against Palestinians years before ever becoming ministers in the Netanyahu government. These are very bad people.
They are very bad people. And they should really be. Honestly, people went to prison at Nuremberg for less.
Yes, without a doubt.
Yes. Hell, one guy he went to prison. I think they killed him, right? Julius Streicher. He just published a newspaper.
Yes.
They executed. Granted, it was a nasty piece of work, but it was just a newspaper.
Mm-hmm. That's absolutely right.
So,
yeah, I'm worried about where this is going, in that I think a whole lot of people are going to starve to death. Women, children, the elderly, all civilians, they're going to starve to death.
No question.
The U.S. Right now. The U.S. is not going to put pressure on Netanyahu. It's just not. We know what our government is like. And I'm not saying this is specific to Donald Trump. The Democrats are exactly the same way.
Absolutely.
So it's not going to get better in the near term. It's just not.
No, I mean, look, we're in a world where even AOC can't be counted upon to resist sending war funding to Israel. I mean, even just from a fiscal conservative standpoint, you should be able to say, little birds, we've been feeding you since 1948.
Time to fly the nest.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Is there anything else we want to say about this? I mean, Trump says that this is interfering with his peace efforts. There are no peace efforts, right? I mean, basically, it's very strange. There's been the 2 delegations in Qatar, whatever.
Yeah, we should add that. We should talk about that. The U.S. walked out yesterday. The U.S. walked out saying that Hamas is not serious about hostage releases. It's like, seriously? That's what the talks are about. Hostage releases. And why is it that we call Israelis held by Hamas hostages and Palestinians held by Israel prisoners?
That's a good question.
When they haven't been charged with any crime, they were just scooped up only because they happen to be Palestinian.
Right, because Israel is a nation state and we love them. It's sort of like why, if it's Iran, it's the regime. If it's France, it's the government. Mm-hmm. It's, all this loaded language.
That's right. So there are no peace talks right now. We walked out. They're on hiatus, and they weren't accomplishing anything anyway.
No, and there was a piece in today's Times, and this is not really on the agenda, but whatever, like we care. Russia, Ukraine, and it's brought up a good point that really peace negotiations haven't really begun in earnest. No. And that's true about Israel and Palestine. I mean, and basically talked about shuttle diplomacy back during the Henry Kissinger era. Yeah. And whatever many bad things you want to say about Henry Kissinger, he was, he certainly was a hardworking dude.
Sure.
And he went back and forth all the time.
Sure. Philip Habib in the 80s. Same
diplomacy
thing.
Was it was an arduous, prolonged, long process to end a complicated war between nation states. Look, Hamas was really a government. A real government.
Yes.
And
in fact, the Israelis use the Hamas Ministry of Health numbers.
Yes.
They accept the Hamas numbers on people killed or wounded or whatever.
Yeah, it's only the Zionists in the United States who pretend like they're not true.
That's right.
You can't trust them out. You're right. They're an undercount.
Exactly.
I don't trust them either. So for sure, the Israelis are sitting on top of thousands and thousands of uncharged political prisoners, is what they are.
Yes, they are.
Tortured and subjected to all sorts of humiliating treatment. Peace talks. We're not going to, there's no chance because, the Israelis aren't serious. And people will say, well, what about Hamas? Well, in any kind of lopsided military conflict, most of the burden of making peace falls on the superior military force. They're going to have the advantage. They're going to have to make most of the concessions, in terms of getting close if you want to have a ceasefire anyway. I know people will say end of World War II or whatever, unconditional surrender. That war went on. I never, I wasn't there, but I would have never agreed with the policy of unconditional surrender. I think it dragged World War II on much longer than it needed to.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right.
Yes.
And those days are gone. That's just not how conflicts end anymore.
No, now you like Saddam Hussein, you go hide in your spider hole, you leave weapons behind, and then an insurgency pops up, and nobody ever admits that they were defeated. Hell,
right?
Trump did admit he was defeated.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
Tom Ford.
Good eye.
How in the world did Robin Hood know that these were Tom Ford glasses? I never even heard of Tom Ford till I bought these glasses.
I never heard of Tom Ford.
And they're like, they're Tom Ford. I was like, okay.
What's the big deal about Tom Ford?
I don't know, but I like them.
Are they pricey?
Yeah, they kind of were. Yeah.
Glasses cost ridiculous. These were like $1,200. They don't look like much, but
these were only $700.
Only.
But still, to me, that's a lot of money. Yeah.
No, it's absurd. All right. Well, so I guess we should talk about the ICE thing. So, Robert, Democratic House Representatives Robert Garcia and Summer Lee are demanding, they wrote a letter to Kristi Noem, the Department of Homeland Security, to demand that she provide all the information, internal DHS memos and policies that concern how ICE is supposed to comport themselves, how they're supposed to dress. I don't know if there's a certain color of mask that they're supposed to wear, white in the winter, I don't know, pink for the gay ICE members, I don't know, whatever. But they're trying to get all that info. Does DHS have to reply?
No. That's an executive order function. They don't have to reply. And I'll tell you, one of the things I learned when I was on Capitol Hill at the Senate Foreign Relations Committee is most of the time, cabinet members just ignore us. We would write letters to secretary of whatever, or assistant secretary, or the FBI director, or the CIA director. They would just ignore us. And what are you going to do? Is it worth going to the mat over the fact that they ignored the letter from your staff member? No. So yeah, I don't think they're going to get any satisfaction here. I'm still laughing though, Ted, at the reporting in the LA Times that tow truck operators are following these ICE officers and towing their cars, because they always park illegally because they think they can do whatever they want because they're ICE. And then as soon as they get out to do their raids, the tow trucks tow their cars and impound them.
And after all, it's not like they can extend any professional courtesy to these random, unidentified people.
Unidentified.
How are we supposed to know that they're federal law enforcement officers? I mean, are ICE officers really law enforcement officers?
Well, you know what? That's a good question.
Agents.
They're not really law enforcement officers, just like Bureau of Prisons prison guards are not really law enforcement officers.
Right.
They're not. I mean, they're either what's called a Series 1810 or 1811. In this case, they're both 1810s, which means they're allowed to be armed. But that doesn't necessarily mean that, like they're not going to pull somebody over for speeding. They're likely not going to disrupt, a shoplifter at the Walmart that they happen to be in.
Could they?
I'm not even sure.
I remember there was some strange experience at the university. This was analogous, maybe. University of Cincinnati campus policeman pulled over someone on a city street for running a stop sign, and it led to a violent, incident where there was the dude shot the motorist. It's like one of those like shootings of black motorists by a white cop, and I was like, can a University of Cincinnati, rent a cop, really play real cop? I mean, aren't you like Paul Mall cop? I mean, to me, an ICE person. God. I mean, look, if they want to be treated like real law enforcement officers, they ought to wear uniforms and they ought to show their faces and they should show ID. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, they're just random thugs.
That's it. I have to agree. Somebody makes where did I just see it? They went to FLETC, Houdini. They've gone through FLETC, which is the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center. I went through FLETC before my CIA days. But I was an 1810. So we did the handgun training, but I was 100% not considered law enforcement.
Oh, so you don't necessarily. So going to FLETC does not necessarily. Do you know what FLETC stands for? Yeah,
Federal Law Enforcement Training Center. I had a beautiful shiny gold badge that I kept in this beautiful leather case. I really regretted having to turn it in when I went to the agency. And it got me out of a couple of speeding tickets. Mm-hmm. But I was not considered law enforcement. I didn't consider myself law enforcement. And I would not have tried to stop a shoplifter at Walmart. I would have said, well, it's not my job. Let the next guy do it.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I think it's funny how ICE people they want our sympathy too. I don't care. They do. Doxed at all. I mean, I told you
on the morning of January 6th. I think I said this like a week ago. I had to go up to Capitol Hill to meet with Bruce Fine, and we knew all hell was going to break loose later in the day. So I wanted to, get into Bruce's office, sign this document, and get the hell out. And so when I parked my car, there were all these guys taking off their Bureau of Prisons logo polos and putting on black shirts. And I was like, shame, shame, shame. You clowns aren't law enforcement.
No, not as soon as you do that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, no, it's gross. All right, so I guess...
Hey, can I interrupt you?
Please.
In all seriousness, what do you think about this Candace Owens situation? Candace Owens has been on this rant for the last 3 years where she has been saying that Emmanuel Macron's wife was born male. And she even did a documentary about it. She has no childhood history. No documents exist. No photos exist. Of course, none of that's true.
That can't be true.
No, it's just not true.
I literally just spent my son doesn't know, I realized, was filling out forms and doesn't even know where I was born. I'm like, you don't know shit about your family. So I decided as a gift, I'm going to create I did a family tree, right? I have all this information that I've been meaning to put together. I started putting it together. I went down a rabbit hole through the French and German government genealogy sites.
Oh, very cool.
We go back 400 or 500 years, right? We know, if you, in this country, in France, in Germany, in most countries, we know where you were born, when you got married, which church you got married at, who you got married to.
Who baptized you, where and when you were baptized.
Yeah, it happened in 1611. And so, and in France, I guarantee you that, Mrs. Macron it's not a dude looks like a lady situation.
No, she looks like a woman. And she's obviously clearly born a woman. So anyway, it turns out.
Not to mention, she was very cute when she was young.
She was cute and has a son.
Beating up her husband.
Right, and has a son. So the Macrons, it turned out, through their attorneys, approached Candace Owens a year ago and said, stop doing this. It's not true, and we're going to sue you.
That.
She doubled down. Nobody knew this until a couple of days ago, that she had been warned to back off. And she doubled down. And she said that in part she doubled down because she converted to Catholicism. And her Catholic faith demands of her that she out, this man who is masquerading as the First Lady of France. And so the Macrons filed the defamation suit now.
Where?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure. Where would be better for them?
England.
Yeah, that would be the best.
I really wish I'd sued the LA Times in England. I could have because of the internet. And so, and I should have, even though, it would have required me to go to England quite a bit.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you. We have a couple of paid donations here.
Oh, thank you.
So we should answer
these
questions. So we'll go in reverse order here. Obscure Orca.
Yeah.
John, what's your opinion about the NATO bombing of Yugoslavia?
Yeah, you know what? I was
stationed in Athens at the time, and it was absolutely miserable, not just to be an American diplomat in Greece, but to be an Orthodox Christian American diplomat while the United States government was bombing an Orthodox Christian country that the Greeks considered to be brothers. It was absolutely miserable, to the point where even one of my uncles attacked me verbally at a dinner, and I could barely respond to him. He was like, "Why the fuck did you blow up the Yugo factory? What the fuck were you thinking? You blew up the Yugo factory."
That wasn't me.
And I said, "Theo," and I almost didn't want to answer him. I said, "They converted it to manufacture tanks," which was true. But the bombing of Yugoslavia was wrong in the first place. And we created this fake rump country called Kosovo that has never otherwise existed through the course of human history. And
It just so happens to be holy ground for the Serbian Orthodox Church, and it's where most of the Serbian Orthodox monasteries are located. And we're like, yeah, tough luck. We're gonna take this land away from you. We're gonna give it to these Muslims that you've been feuding with for the last 1,500 years, and there's nothing you can do about it. Oh, and by the way, we're gonna bomb you too, just for the hell of it.
Of course, I mean, obviously, I agree with you. But what about the argument that this was to try to stop the genocide? The genocide, in Kosovo.
Yeah, that is what it was for. Yeah, mm-hmm. Well, less so the genocide in Kosovo than what was happening. Well, no, it was Kosovo by then. Yeah. You know what we should have done?
It was supposed to create like a safety zone, right?
Yeah. Right. But nobody ever said anything about it being an independent country 5 minutes later. And I don't know. And I had access to the information at the time, but there was no information. Why did we not work with Boris Yeltsin to figure this out? Why were we at odds with the Russians over this? Is the nadir of our relationship with the Russians. Why didn't we do something to make it better?
Yeah, I mean, we installed Yeltsin basically.
We did. We installed Yeltsin.
Yeah, I mean, the Russians will never forgive us.
No. And Ted, coming back to serving in Athens in '99 while we're bombing Yugoslavia, every year we have to vacate the embassy on the 17th of November because it's the date of the uprising against the military junta that we installed, and there's a massive demonstration that marches from the Polytechnic University where the uprising began to the American embassy. So we just shut the whole place down at 12 and everybody goes home. You just get a half a day off. We evacuated the American embassy at least a dozen times that year because these demonstrations were absolutely gigantic. And at the time, this is right before the Greeks converted to the euro. So they had these 100 drachma coins that were about the size of an Eisenhower silver dollar. Mm-hmm. And so you could fling them and they had some heft to them. So they would take these 100 drachma coins, which were worth about a quarter, 27 cents, and they would smash all the windows on the front of the embassy. And then they would fill balloons with red paint and with slingshots launch the red balloons.
Whoa.
So the next day, the embassy is just peppered with red paint splotches, and the windows are all broken from 100 drachma coins. It was awful. It was miserable.
I bet. Hey, John, we got to answer USC Arad21 who donated $5. Thank you.
Thank you, USC.
I don't want to put your pardon into jeopardy, John. But what are your guys' take on South Park going after Trump?
I DVR'd it. It was freaking hilarious.
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, you got to see it. You got to see it, Ted. I won't spoil it for you, but the creators of South Park just a couple of days ago signed a $1.5 billion streaming agreement. God bless them.
It's obviously for the high quality animation.
I still watch South Park. I will admit to you, I watch Family Guy, Simpsons, South Park, and Bob's Burgers. I love all the animated shows.
Thank you, Caleb, also.
Thank you, Caleb. South Park is by far the most cutting edge. Like when I watch Family Guy with one of my housemates, I always say, oh my God, how can they get away with a joke like that? But South Park, it's like, oh my God, like it's shocking to me that they're able to do what they're doing. Now, it's all for a good laugh. It's all comedy, but I just love it. I think it's great.
Yeah, well, my favorite, the thing that those two guys did that I love the best is still Team America: World Police. I can never get over how I've seen it more times than I could count. It's one of the funniest things I've seen in my life.
Absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
I wish I could be creative like that. I don't think I can be creative like that.
See, I think I could, and I think I do.
Well,
I could be. I wish I was in the writer's room,
Yeah, and you deal in very sharp comedy. I mean, you're a political cartoonist. You have to have that kind of biting sense of humor.
Yeah, well,
yeah, they are geniuses.
You would totally think, but so many of my colleagues are just, they're wussies. It's because they worked at daily papers and they were scared, and they were, I'll never forget. I got a job interview at the Asbury Park Press. He's dead now, so I'll name him. Executive editor, Ray Olwerther, brings me into his office. And, it's like one of those things where you really feel like it's going well. And see, I'm there for a good hour. I'm feeling like, I'm going to get this. And it should be pointed out that I'd been drawing for them local cartoons for Central New Jersey for a year. So it wasn't like I was just blowing in off the street.
Yeah.
It's like, we've been dating. Now are you going to put a ring on it or not? And so everything's going great. And then Ray leans back, points out the window and says, there's just one more thing. Am I ever going to look outside that window and see people protesting because of one of the cartoons you drew? And I said, I was flummoxed.
I hope so.
I said, I was honest. I said, it's not my intent, when I sit down to make that happen, but I don't care if it does. And people are going to do what they're going to do.
Legit answer.
And people get mad at stuff that I never see coming, and other stuff that I think is going to blow up the world. There's no reaction. I don't know. It's like, don't you have security? I don't know. And so I was like, that look like wrong answer, tilt, and never got the job. And I had one interview another like that after that. St. Louis Post-Dispatch, same thing. Ooh. Sacramento Bee, I'll never forget the guy. He goes.
Thank you, Gav.
Howard Weaver. He goes, what I have to figure out here is if we're going to let the good burgers of Sacramento wake up to ground glass every morning on their opinion page. In other words, if he hires me, I'm like, I hope so. That's what it's for. This could go. We could do a whole show on that. But that's
I've actually purchased I purchased years ago their Mormons episode that people are talking about in the chat, and I also purchased the lice episode. You remember the lice episode?
Yes.
Oh my God, so funny! I still laugh out loud every time I watch it. Oh my heavens!
It's like one of my. I have to say, if the animation were better, I would have seen every episode. The animation's a little rough.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of the charm.
Oh, well, look, obviously, it's their 27th season. I think they've kind of got it figured out. Yeah.
It's just crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
No,
yeah, I wish I could be.
I'm not complaining about them. But I have every right, but I just don't feel like it because I don't think it would be true. All right. So let's see what else we got to talk about here.
Yes, I did.
That stuff to hit. Oh, yeah. Ghislaine, how do we pronounce her name?
Yeah, Ghislaine.
Ghislaine, I can never pronounce. Milady, Ghislaine Maxwell. She's still, her prison photos, she's still hot.
Yeah, she looks good.
So John, I'm a little bit confused by this. So I don't understand. I know that obviously the heat is on the Trump administration over Epstein. I get it. But now, is this just window dressing? Are they just pretending to look into it? It looks like she requested the interview with the DOJ, and they've complied and went in and had a wide-ranging conversation with her about anything and everything. According to her,
she answered everything.
She answered everything. She seems like she could be if she committed perjury, she would have exposure to prosecution.
Yes,
and could extend her.
It was very risky to answer these questions.
To me, that indicates someone who's probably telling the truth.
Yes.
When you take a risk, it's sort of like when you sue for defamation, then
that's right.
Subject yourself to discovery and everything. So what is this about? Why did this interview take place? And what was the desired outcome from both sides? And what's the actual outcome?
Well, we this has to be speculation because we really don't know.
Totally.
Thank you, Houdini, very much. And I'm thinking that. Do you remember last week, Ted, when we were talking about the comment that the Attorney General made about the videos being just child porn? And they will never see the light of day, Pam Bondi said. We will never release. And I said, we don't want to see the child porn. We want to know the names of the men committing crimes against children. That's what we want to know.
So it could be that. It could be that she's naming people who would be on those hard drives.
Apparently that happened.
Yeah.
Reportedly, according to her counsel.
Much of the reporting has been on, these allegations, and they're not a stretch by any means, that she wants some sort of a commutation, even a pardon. And Trump, being Trump, wouldn't rule it out.
Well, why would he give it to her, right? Doesn't he want her to shut up?
My brain can't wrap itself around what in the world would possess Donald Trump to throw her a bone.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't he pardon her for being quiet?
Right.
Not blabbing everything. And it turns out that, remember we were joking the other day about it depends on what your definition of a list is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, apparently we were right about that. And it turns out that some of the names that are popping up are Bill Clinton and John Kerry and a handful of other people who are well known to every single American. But the question remains, who were the guys committing crimes against children?
Right. Yeah. So in the Mayflower Madam,
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Case,
you're going back now.
Very old 80s. There was a very famous little black book that belonged to her that made its way, unlike the Epstein files, into the public eye. And the thing is, what was notable is, of course, she had her Johns in there and she had her girls in there, but she had a dry cleaner in there and she had her Chinese food in there. I mean, The point is that's what people do, right?
Yes.
And anyway, it's not, I guess if you're looking for a spreadsheet that says my child sex clients
exactly
.xls.
Yes.
It's not in there. Okay.
No.
But that's not really the issue. I mean, it's kind of like, as usual, the Trump administration is playing, well, like all administrations, they're playing it too cute.
Yeah. Yeah, they are. That's right.
And so was Maxwell railroaded?
Oh, I don't think so. I think she was guilty. I think that there were a whole bunch of people who were guilty. They shouldn't have gone after just her and Epstein. But yeah, I think she got what she deserved.
Okay, so she got what she deserved. I mean, okay, she got what she deserved. She procured for Epstein. We know that. Now, the question is, basically what this looks like to me is they partied a lot. They probably had lots of young girls around.
Mm-hmm.
They passed them around.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's not about necessarily a honeypot operation. It's not about Mossad necessarily, or probably.
No.
It's probably just like gross dudes drinking and doing drugs and having a good time.
Yep.
And doing shit that's illegal and immoral sometimes.
Yes.
Not all
that's
of them.
it.
Some of them. It's sort of like you're at a party and there's something going on in another room, and maybe you don't go into that other room,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe you do go into that other room. I think that's what it was like.
I think you've hit it on the head. There's another thing too, and this is a minor point, but it's something that I've often wondered about. I've spoken publicly a lot about how pedophiles are almost always locked up in low security prisons. They're not eligible for minimums because they're pedophiles, which means they're dangers to society. But they don't go to mediums or maximums because they'll be attacked or killed or beaten or tortured or
By
whatever.
the bad people who are already there.
That's right. She's at a minimum security work camp. How the heck did that happen? Why were the rules waived for her? Why is she getting special treatment?
And what's your answer to that question, John?
I don't know. I don't have an answer.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, that's the whole thing, right? Like, there may not be a conspiracy, but when things don't make sense, people fill in the blanks. And I mean, look, in all fairness, there's weird shit that happens in the real world. I mean, how the Concorde crashed is very strange.
Right.
Not a conspiracy, just a piece of metal
strange.
That fell off a plane that was in front of it and went to the engine and blew it up. And now we can't fly supersonic transport anymore.
Michael Gardner says rich people get different rules, even in prison.
Absolutely true. Listen to this. There was a guy in the next row of cells over from me. Oh, I can't remember his name, but he was a quarterback for the New York Giants in the early 1970s. And he was in for like 25 years for running this major, massive Ponzi scheme. And, let's say he made 100 million and they made him pay 50 million in restitution. He still had 50 million left over. So what this guy did, he was a real scumbag too. What this guy did was he paid off all the Mexican and black gangs to ensure his safety, right? So he paid like $500 a month, I think is what he told me. Like $500 a month to the MS-13 shot caller, $500 to the Crips, $500 to the Bloods, $500 to the Mexican Mafia. And then he hated the food in the cafeteria. Everybody did. Oh. But he hired one of the Hispanics to be his personal chef. And so other guys, their side hustle in prison is they steal food out of the cafeteria, and they're allowed to steal food. The guards look the other way. So he would spend his $500 a month in the commissary that he was allowed to spend, and then he would buy the rest of it on the black market, stolen from the cafeteria. And he had this personal chef make him 3 meals a day. So you're right, Michael Gardner. Rich people.
It's good to be king.
Yeah, it's good to be king. Rich people are different. There are different rules, even in prison.
I wonder how it was for Martha Stewart.
Oh, everybody loved Martha Stewart.
Yeah.
She taught them how to make soap, and she taught them how to make little handicrafts. And, I think Martha Stewart's experience in prison was kind of like mine, where I'm still in touch with a lot of the Italians. I spoke to 2 of them last night. We did a little Zoom call to say hi. There was a crooked congressman from Ohio who went to prison a couple years before I did. He was in my prison.
Oh, I remember that guy.
Remember him?
Trafficant.
No. This was actually the district immediately south of Jim Trafficant.
Okay, all right.
I forget his name now, but anyway, he said when he got out, he was in for like 2 years or 2.5 years. It was a corruption charge, and he said, "Oh my God, Clyde Hall! Yes, it was Clyde Hall. How in the world did you pull that up?"
Must be an Ohioan.
Wow. Oh, listen, man. RS, I'm impressed. Yes, it was Clyde Hall. I have not thought of that name in a decade. So he got out of prison. He said, they say that you don't go to prison to make friends. And he says, I came out of prison having made some of the best friends of my life. And I remember thinking at the time, this is before I was ever in trouble, thinking that he was nuts. Mm. But he's not nuts, and I understand it now.
Is it trauma bonding?
In part, it could be, but the people that you trauma bond with, you tend to walk away from. These guys were genuinely good guys. I mean, some of them did some very bad things. Like, I remember one of them saying, I said, "So what are you in here for?" And he goes like this, he goes, "The cops found a body in a barrel in my storage unit. I don't know how that body got in there." I said, no. I said, "I'm not judging you." Seriously.
It could happen to anybody.
He goes, 100 people had access to that storage unit. I said, "I'm not judging you. Don't worry." But yeah, we're still in touch. And it's a strange place. How do people get so jacked? Like bodybuilders? That's a good question. And I saw there are three guys that pop into my head immediately as like the most perfect human specimens I've ever seen in my life, because there is literally nothing to do but work out. Nothing.
What about you?
I walked. I made sure to walk 5 miles a day around the track. And when it snows, they close the track and you're only allowed to walk around the basketball court. So you walk around 500 times. When I first arrived, I was walking around with a captain from the Bonanno family. So this is a very senior guy. And it was the first really great advice anybody had given me in prison. I had been there about 2 or 3 weeks. and it's pouring down snow. It's like 10 degrees, and we're walking around the outside basketball court. And he said to me, "How much time did you get?" I said, 30 months. Feels like 30 years. And he said, "Let me give you some advice." He said, "If somebody asks you how much time you have, you say 5 years." I said, "Why?" He said, "There are guys in here with 20, 25, 30 years. If they hear that you have 30 months and you're pissed off about it, they're going to kick your ass. So tell them 5 years."
Does anybody ever ask to see your paperwork?
Only when...
To find out if you're a child molester or whatever?
Only when you first arrive to see if you're a child molester. So I had to give my paperwork to the shot caller for the Aryans, and he read the paperwork and he goes, "Intelligence Identities Protection Act." He goes, "What the fuck is that?" And I said, it's like a conspiracy charge. And he goes, "Okay." So I sat with the Aryans for a while till the Italians took me. Yeah.
At meals.
Yeah, there are some guys who will just sit with the Aryans, and then the shot caller will go up and say, "Who the fuck are you?" and give me your paperwork. And then the smart ones will just go sit with the pedophiles without saying anything. Some will just claim that they can't find their paperwork, or they'll have their lawyer write a letter. It's like, no. If you have any idea what's good for you, you're going to get up and move to the pedophile table right now. And they always do.
Wow. I think this is, I have to put this question up. How bad are the showers? We've all seen the movies.
Yes. You know what? That was one of the very few questions I asked my attorneys. One of the things that my attorneys did for me was they scheduled a lunch a couple of weeks before I left for prison with a former professor from George Washington University who played fast and loose with the National Science Foundation credit card and got 2 years. So the very first question I asked him was, "What's the situation with the showers?" And he said, "Oh, no, don't worry about that." He said, "It's nothing like what you see on TV. You're going to go to a low or a minimum, and they're all individual showers, completely enclosed with shower curtains. Same with the toilets. They're all individual toilets with shower curtains. Don't worry about it at all." And he was exactly right. And I'll say, one thing. I never saw a guy naked in prison. Well, that's not true. We did have one strip search once. But you do not walk around exposing yourself unless you want to have every bone in your face broken. There was an Afghan child molester who came into my cell just before I left. I have an entire chapter about him in my second book. And he went out to play soccer one day, and then he came back. And we had these huge fans, like a 4-foot tall fan, because there's no air conditioning in prisons. And so the fan was on for months at a time in the summer. So this guy went out to play soccer, and he came back and he takes off all of his clothes. His clothes are literally dripping sweat. It was disgusting. And he goes up to the fan and he's airing out his balls. And I walked past him and I said, "Sheer, you're going to get your ass kicked. You can't." I said, "This isn't a fucking country club. You're in prison." Right. And he's like, "Fuck you. I don't answer to you." 4 guys were on him like white on rice. They left him in a bloody pulp on the floor.
Not surprised at all.
Told you. Moron. And he's
like
lifting up his balls and airing them out. We're like, what are you doing? Are you out of your mind?
People, it's always weird to me when people are in situations like this and they just don't know how to act. I like this question.
That's a good question.
Criminals actually respected if child molesters / chomos are at the bottom, who's on top, or does it work that way?
Oh, yeah, it very much works that way. The chomos are at the very, very bottom. The rats are very barely above the chomos. The Italians were at the very top. Very, very top. And, it was funny because of all the gangs, and they're considered a gang.
Mafiosos or Italians? Or is there a differentiation?
Oh, there's a difference. You have to be connected in some way. Mm-hmm. the Italian network is very strong, and so they'll know weeks in advance that you're coming to the prison.
So this is also an important.
That's a good question. Okay, that's a good question. I'll get to that in a second.
Change during and after your imprisonment.
Yeah.
I assume your prison was like the California system that I've read about, where everything is racially segregated.
Absolutely everything. In fact, at higher levels, you cannot have any contact with other races because you're then branded a race traitor. And then you're treated.
Can't make friends with, say, a Latino just to be like.
Absolutely not.
You can't play cards.
I made a conscious decision when I first arrived, and I say that in my book. I made a conscious decision to ignore those racial divisions. And at the end of my sentence, the black shot caller, a guy named Ali from Newark, he was at the tail end of a 25-year drug charge. He came over to hug me and to tell me how much he respected me. I helped him. I wrote his resume for him. I helped him.
How did that happen if you weren't allowed to?
Because I refused to respect those racial divisions.
So you were.
I just refused.
Did you get any shit for that from whites?
No, I got shit from the Hispanics. And I was like, you guys all hate each other. Like the Mexicans hate the Puerto Ricans, and the Puerto Ricans hate the Dominicans, and the Dominicans hate the Costa Ricans. It's ridiculous. I was like, you guys all look exactly the same to me, and you all hate each other. I just never understood it. So the Italians were by far the most respected, and that was the point I was going to make. Of the gangs, right? If you're in an organized gang, MS-13, Bloods, Crips, Mexican Mafia, Borrachos, Norteños, all these guys, your prisoner number ends with the number -47. 47 means organized gang. Well, the Italians were also 47s. So of all the gangs, the Italians were by far the smallest and by far the most highly respected.
And was there a charge that was most respected, like in the hierarchy of robbery, murder, rape?
RICO.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, RICO. And RICO usually had murder attached to it. Usually it was conspiracy to commit murder because, a guy will murder somebody and then 20 people will get charged for it because they're all part of the conspiracy. Gotcha. I'll tell you who they didn't like. They didn't like these big, rich, white-collar criminals.
Really?
Yeah, they didn't like those guys. The only ones who,
Why were they just viewed as soft and...
Yeah, soft. You thought you're going to get away with it. No, poor you. You got caught. Now it's like, oh, I'm in prison. Oh, my God.
So it's a class thing.
It's a class thing. The only guys who were in where nobody gave a shit was like arson. I knew 3 arsonists, and people were like, arson. Did you kill anybody? No. Okay. Nobody cares. Like insurance fraud, mortgage fraud. One guy was property fraud, which I had never heard of before. It's funny. He just forged papers transferring ownership of a golf course to himself. And then he tried to charge people rent.
He's like one of those squatters that write up the fake deed.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of a big deal, right? It's sort of like how car theft is a direct heir to horse theft, and you're basically stealing a man's livelihood. So it's considered
not cool.
Really serious. And stealing a man's home is the same way. This question from Nick. What are our thoughts about all the recent trade deals?
The trade, I told my sister this the other day. I can't believe Trump is actually getting away with it.
I know.
People are saying, "Oh my God, he's nuts! And the tariffs 100% and 50%. Oh my God!" He's coming to deals with all these countries, and they're deals that favor the United States. I can't believe I'm saying it.
So yeah, no, I don't have anything to add to that. That's very, very, very true. All right, so finally, but maybe not least, Donald Trump issued an executive order stating that he's very upset about the explosion of homelessness.
Yeah.
The executive order actually understates the problem. It says that there's 250,000 homeless people in the United States. There are actually 770,000.
I was going to say by a factor of 3 or 4. Yeah.
And it's gone up a lot. That number was 550 for years, and then it shot up over the last 4 years since COVID, and prices shot up, and people got priced out of housing. Mm-hmm. That's not counting the millions who are couch surfing.
That's right.
Hidden homeless. But he doesn't care about that. He said it's a bad look in D.C. for foreign dignitaries to see tent cities as they drive in from Reagan Airport. He's right. He says that it's disturbing and dangerous for law-abiding citizens to see people pissing and shitting outside.
Nobody wants to see that, but
that's capitalism for you.
That's capitalism, and you can't keep cutting the budget and starting with services.
Right. So here's what Donald Trump, I think, is really good at diagnosing problems. Like, hey, factories in the Midwest have closed, and we haven't retrained anyone, and everybody's just depressed and poor and addicted to opiates.
Yeah,
that sucks.
Yeah,
good for me. But he's right, and honestly, that is not a small thing. Being able to diagnose the problem is very, very important. Like, I didn't see Joe Biden doing that. I didn't see Kamala Harris doing that. Okay, good for you. But Trump's very bad at coming up with the cure and the treatment.
Yeah.
Right? And so here he's basically, the thesis here is that the vast majority of public homeless people are mentally ill, emotionally disturbed, drug addicts, or some combination thereof. That's probably true. If they aren't before they get on the street, they rapidly deteriorate. I've seen that happen in my neighborhood here in New York. So the question is, what do we do about it? His answer seems to be forcible commitment. Now, I'm not the kind of liberal who's going to say that someone has a moral and legal right to sleep outside in Manhattan when it's 5 below zero.
Right.
No, I want them picked up,
Agreed.
dragged off, and taken somewhere. But I
Yes.
want them taken somewhere safe and nice and warm. I don't want them to be abused, treated like shit, humiliated, attacked, raped, whatever. So the problem is that there's no facilities here. So it's a two-part thing, right? We've got drug addicts and we've got mentally ill people. And he's like, basically reopen the insane asylums, like the old Creedmoor, scandal from the 70s.
Oh, yeah.
Like, where people were chained to their beds and stuff.
Yes.
Well, the point is, Mr. President, there are no facilities, right? Where are you going to put them? This reminds me of the mass deportations. There's no facilities to handle the mass deportations. There's no facilities to handle the mass removal of the homeless from American city streets. I mean, where are you going to put them? And that goes double for drug addiction. There's no treatment really available. There's no services available. If you want to create a massive infrastructure, a massive safety net to deal with these people, God bless you, and I will help you, and I will support you, and I will scream it to the heavens what a great president you are. But I don't see that happening.
No, I don't see it happening either. Our viewers are making a lot of really good points here. First of all, the tent right behind the executive office building. There's also another one now up at Union Station. Same idea. My guess is he'll find some pretext to move them out. Reagan, well, it started really under Carter, where the Supreme Court ruled that people could not be held against their will if they were not a danger to themselves or to others. But a lot of them are a danger to themselves or to others.
For sure.
And they're deserving of mental health care.
Yes.
So what do we do? Do we make it easier to force people into mental health care? And then on the other side,
lots of abuse, right? I mean,
lots of abuse.
When I was a little kid, my neighbor, he decided that it was like a lot easier and cheaper than paying alimony to have his wife, who was perfectly wonderful and lovely and sane, forcibly committed. And she spent 6 months at the local insane asylum in Dayton before she managed to get out. That kind of shit used to happen all the time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you don't want to make it too easy, but you don't want to make it too hard either.
California suffered with that for many years, many years. And it was in the 1970s that they finally changed the law so that the police couldn't forcibly commit you.
Can you imagine the cops just ring your doorbell and then by force take you and put you in a mental institution, and there's literally nothing you can do about it?
Well, I mean, in a sense, that does happen now. I don't know if you've seen the Netflix. I think it's Netflix. The movie We Care a Lot. But it's
I have. Oh my God!
That's a real phenomenon.
Yes,
right?
it is.
Like, so basically, these nursing homes they conspire to have
and they
people
take
who
your
are
power
elderly.
of attorney.
Yeah, and it's for people often who are perfectly fine, nothing's wrong, but they target them because they're rich and they're going to take their money.
And they do. They take their money. But we really spend scandalously little money on mental health. And in fact,
even though mental health parity is in the Affordable Care Act, completely unenforced.
Completely unenforced. And in most counties, I read this, I think at the Rutherford Institute website. In most counties in America,
forcing into mental health care shall be done after mental health care is vastly improved, if at all.
If at all.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly.
So in most counties in America, there are more mentally ill people in the county jail than there are in mental hospitals.
Yeah. Well, there just aren't enough mental hospitals. Mm-hmm. And the mental hospitals that are there suck ass.
Yeah.
So, I had a friend, she discovered her ex-husband had committed suicide. She walked in on him. And found him. The guy had took a butcher knife and nearly hacked his own head off in his kitchen.
Oh my God.
Unsurprisingly, she freaks out, runs into the streets of Brooklyn, screaming, I want to die. NYPD shows up. Understandably, they think they have a mentally distraught woman on their hand, which they did. And they dragged her off to Bellevue and put her in like the padded room. Mm-hmm. She saw her phone, so she called her sister. Her sister came to visit, and her sister was like, "Honey, I know you're really upset," she said in a really low voice, "but listen, they're going to keep you here unless you can pretend like you're okay. Like, do you understand what I'm saying? They're going to keep you here like indefinitely, maybe forever. You have to get it together, stop crying, stop sobbing, and just be like, I'm good now. I can go home and just keep it together, and so that they'll let you go." And she did. And then she fell apart later. But I mean, it's like that's how it works.
There was even an episode of Lou Grant about this. I happened to see on Hulu years ago, where this investigative journalist who was working at the LA, whatever it was called, Dispatch, got himself committed to a mental hospital so he could write an article from the inside.
And that's what happens with the Creedmoor documentary.
Yeah, that's right. But he couldn't get out.
Died.
Yeah, couldn't get out.
And they drug you.
Yes.
So, yeah. I mean, they drug the seniors in old folks' home, too, to make them compliant.
Yes.
And there's, I mean, so they weren't great before they showed up, and they're definitely not great after that. They did it to my mom. I watched them do it. I knew they were doing it. And it was, basically when they say you need an advocate when you're in there, they're not wrong. You need to be there like all the time. I wanted to, this is a good question actually. So there's a border conflict
right.
between Thailand and Cambodia going on right now. It's not like war in the Southeast Asia has ever been a problem for the United States, so maybe we don't need to talk about it. But in all seriousness, Thailand deployed an F-16 across the border into Cambodia, and it took out artillery positions. They claimed that they were retaliating. This all boils down to goes back to a treaty from 1907 by the French colonial power that set that border. As usual, the text, so this is fascinating as a graphic artist, right? So the text of the treaty says that basically the border follows the natural flow of the river. But the drawing that went with it, that some Frenchman in 1907 drew, doesn't really do that. And it puts this temple that's on the Cambodian side of the border. And the Cambodians are like, thank you. And everybody went with the with the drawing.
Yeah.
And as a graphic artist, I agree with that 100%. But I think actually under most treaties, you look at the words, and the ties are like, well, we're looking at the words, fuck the drawing, and so that's what this is all about. It's like art versus text.
Crazy.
And it's about this temple. This seems like maybe not a big deal, but it's not a big deal either.
Tell you the truth, I didn't even realize that the Cambodians had a military.
Oh, really?
Seriously. Yeah.
Well, it got really the Khmer Rouge got overrun by the Vietnamese.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, sure.
It must not be much of a military.
It can't be, and they still have all those mines all over the place. Yeah, when I first saw this, I was like, "Wait, what?" And then I had to reread it. Like, okay, and they're firing at each other across the border too.
Yeah,
this happens between India and China every few years.
That's true. Yeah,
yeah,
this kind of major war over it in 1962. Yeah. And then there's like a few years ago, right? Drunken border guards.
Uh-huh.
They drink a lot up there. Nothing to do.
Nothing.
Things get out of control. That's what I always say is like, that's why Putin never wanted a NATO country on his border. He knows about drunken border guards.
Yeah, that's
right. And then the next thing you know, you've got like French nukes headed your way.
Crazy.
With Article 5 of NATO. We were asked, and I'm sorry, I apologize to whoever it was who asked this earlier in the chat, but I'm going to do a callback. I hope you're still here. What do we think about Trump's reversal on NATO? He used to hate it. Now he loves it. Well, Trump's always flip-flopping like a fish on a dock. What do you think?
I think he really believed that Vladimir Putin would do what he told him to do. And I think he's just so angry that Putin won't just go to the negotiating table and settle this thing with Ukraine, that now he's got to embrace NATO. He's got to. Otherwise, he's going to be out there all alone.
Well, this is what we were talking about earlier, right? I mean, it's like diplomacy takes fucking work.
Exactly.
I mean, Bill Clinton, I know neither of us supported his actions against Serbia, but I do have to hand it to him. I love the story about how the Dayton Peace Accord came to be, right? So he cleverly brought the three leaders of Serbia, Croatia, and who am I forgetting here? Kosovo.
Yeah.
To Dayton, to the Air Force Base, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And, having grown up there, I'm pretty sure Bill Clinton was aware of the fact that it was one of the most boring places in the United States. So he's like, you guys work on this, you work it all out, and then you get to go home. And anyway, so he left them there, and they were kind of kept prisoner.
Yeah. But he did give them soccer balls. I remember that.
But they were getting really desperate. And finally he was like, I tell you what, there is a French restaurant called L'Auberge. It's just south of South Dayton. It's the only French restaurant in Dayton. You fellas can all go down there and you can have a good meal, but you got to sign. You got to sign the agreement. And so Slobodan Milosevic and the rest, they were like, man, I got to have me a good meal. Dayton sucks. So they all signed. And I grew up like, I don't know, a quarter of a mile from L'Auberge. So I used to walk by it on my way from my mom's house to my school every single day. And anyway, so they went to L'Auberge and had a nice kind of old-fashioned, too much sweet sauce, old-style French place. It's gone now at Town and Country Shopping Center. And they used to have a seating chart, like with, they showed like where all of the diplomats sat.
That's cool.
And where Clinton was and all that, what type of wine they had. But I always like, I laughed at that. I was like, this is like French food diplomacy. We're hungry. We can't eat this shitty base food anymore.
No, it gets to be too much.
Yeah, and by the way, totally true. Two Toes.
Yeah, that's a surprisingly excellent museum.
It is big. It's not like pop in for 30 minutes and you'll see everything. That's a half-day event, and it's good. I mean, it's also got a strong aeronautics aspect to it also, and also all the space stuff is amazing too. So I lived in Dayton then. The story back then is that Milosevic insisted something needed to be signed. I think it was Clinton, but I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? All we know is that people were hungry and they ended up at L'Auberge.
Indeed.
But yeah, and it was a boring place. But anyway, yeah, I love that story. So let's talk a little bit before we should wrap it up. The homeless executive order.
Yeah.
This could be an opportunity for Democrats to say, you know what, Mr. President, you're right. Homelessness is a national shame for the world's richest country. We shouldn't have anybody sleeping outside. Let's work together on this. That can't happen, right?
No, yeah, there was a piece in the Post today saying that, it's all fine and good to sign an executive order, but the truth of the matter is that this is a state issue. And he might be able to fiddle with what little federal funding there is, but there's nothing he could do to force, tent cities to be removed or to force people into mental institutions or whatever. He can't do anything. Now, if he wants to make a proposal to take abandoned or mothballed military bases and turn them into housing for the homeless, where maybe they can undergo some job training, get mental health care, whatever, and then be reintroduced into society, I guess that's something else. But I think this is mostly talk.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's one of those things that can get done this way. I think we could maybe answer this last question. I think we need to, and then we should be on our way and start our weekends. So what do we think about Trump saying Obama could be arrested over the Russia election scandal?
Well, thanks to Donald Trump going to the Supreme Court, a president can't be arrested for anything.
Correct.
Issues done, closed.
If it was, all that Obama would have to argue is that he did it in the exercise of his functions as president of the United States.
Yes. Now, John Brennan is another issue. Just before we started this show, I interviewed Matt Taibbi for my other podcast, Deep Focus. And Matt says, I sort of lamented the fact that what the Justice Department has had referred to it is misdemeanor charges against Brennan and Comey related to allegedly lying to Congress. And he said, yeah, that's true. But he said what he's hearing now is that they are actively pursuing felony conspiracy charges against at least Brennan and maybe Brennan and Comey.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, I mentioned to you offline the other day, I will go to Brennan's trial every single day. I mean it.
With a big fat grin on your face.
Karma is real and she's an evil bitch.
And I think that's a perfect place to start our weekend. John Kiriakou, thank you so much. As always, it's a pleasure to be here with you.
That was so much fun.
Yeah, it's always fun. We're DeProgram. We're going to be here again next week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern. Maybe we should try for the whole every day the week after, maybe. But
sure, we could try that.
Okay. All right. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Eastern, 5 o'clock. Please follow, and share the show. Seriously, please share it. Just find the link and pass it around. Massive thing for us.
It is.
We're trying to get it. I mean, the numbers are definitely go in the right direction, but anything you can do to make them go there even faster would be much appreciated. As always, thanks for your questions. It was always fun to answer them. We have the best viewers. Love you guys. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.